I like to bring the humanity forward. As we're confronted with AI and the digital, it's good to tune into humans. And remember, the whole point of personality, it has the word person in it, right? Person is important. People are important. I've got Jonathan here, who's on our team, ENFJ preferences. Jonathan's been working with us in our personality life path mentorship. He also works in profiler training. He does a lot of things here at Personality Hacker. And Jonathan and I have worked to invite some guests. I don't want to steal your thunder, Jonathan. I want you to introduce some of our guests just for a few minutes. Talk a little about their experience, Jonathan, and I'm going to turn over the mic to you.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Jonathan, best fit type ENFJ. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see you. We have Kristen, Alon, Rhonda, and Tori. Very good to see everyone. The last time we were together was in Seattle, Washington. And I wish I could give you a hug. That's very stereotypical, but I'm an ENFJ. And I mean, that's like my first go-to. So already my heart's bleeding a little bit because we did spend some wonderful time together at the live event. But we're not here to give out hugs. We're here to give out great information and stories. So I would like to ask, anyone can speak up, but I want to hear about you, your best fit type, and really what led you to say yes to profiler training. What was the moment where you made the decision, and kind of give me the story of that? And you know what? I think I'm going to pick on Alon ENFJ, fellow ENFJ. I'm going to call you to the carpet and ask you to speak up first for us.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan, and great seeing you again. Digital hug for you then in this case.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, so why did I decide to join profile training? Was like multiple fold, I guess. So I was part of a community that already was discussing about type. Tori is in the same community actually. And for me, it was a fantastic way to actually meet some of the people who are also in that community, but also just really trying to really understand, what are all these cognitive functions, because everyone has biases. Everyone, I understood the cognitive functions decently well. I thought anyway. But yeah, you actually have to really live through them to be able to really understand them. And I wanted to use that for coaching as well, because I have a small coaching practice that I'm setting up. So yeah, like really going through, for example, the embodiment exercise that we're doing there. We can tell a little bit more about that later, I think. But yeah, that was such a valuable way of experiencing it all. Yeah.
I was wondering what's something you discovered along the way, either about your best fit type ENFJ or something that you were surprised with at the live event, something that you learned along the way.
Well, I kind of went into it with like, okay, the cognitive functions are really more like a language that we use. Like it's a good language, like introvert and extrovert. Everyone kind of understands that. And it's the best language that I found until now for these things in my mind I didn't have a language for yet. But what I really found, I was a little bit skeptical actually at first about the cognitive functions themselves, like that it wasn't just more than a language. And then you do all these embodiment exercises, which is actually living through the functions, doing these exercises where you dive like for half a day each, you dive into these functions and actually do exercises that are really focused on specific functions that make you understand them. And you just saw this massive difference between people who had it like high up in their function stack and anywhere else. You saw such a massive difference in how easy it was for them to use that function and how well they did it. And after these embodiment exercises, people were reflecting. So you have like 30 to 60 people all reflecting based on like their personality type and how they found that exercise. That gave so much insight into what the functions actually are and how they experience from the perspective of each personality type as well. So that was really, really valuable for understanding it.
I agree. Rhonda, I was hoping to check in with you. Hello, good to see you again. I was wondering if you could kind of share with me what made you decide to go ahead and go with profiler training.
I was listening to Personality Hacker podcast for 10 years, 2014, 15. So, and I decided to join it in 2021 in the fall, just, I guess during COVID. So there's a tough time for everybody. So it was like really not putting it off anymore and just really making a commitment to doing it. So, I was INTP my whole life, and I always kind of felt a bit different. I was interested in analyzing people, studying them, and helping people as well. But with just knowing the dichotomies, you're very limited in because it's deeper and more in depth than that. So after knowing more now, I almost feel silly back then with like because I don't like to be wrong. But anyways, so I was really anxious when I was able to go to the live event this spring, and it was again last minute decision. I couldn't travel because of COVID, so I decided again, okay, this is important. I need to make sure I just push ahead and do it. And I didn't know I was struggling with my personality type after learning more about the cognitive functions. And then I finally settled on ISTP. And then so I was like, oh, now I have this event to prepare for. And I feel like I'm not prepared because I've just been wasting too much time trying to figure out my type. So I had a lot of anxiety as an introvert going into action, but I trusted Personality Hacker because I've been listening to them for 10 years and I know they know their stuff. And I've heard other people who've gone to the event said you just have to go. It's so amazing. Just trust them. They'll get you through it. And then, like Alon said, like actually living the functions. I thought I'd be in my hotel room studying so that I could be prepared for the interview. But I just found myself just immersed in the event and really the real learning was in talking with other people who were obsessed with type like I am, and then it's not annoying and they understand it, so you can speak that language with them and you can get to know so many different types of people and they understand you. So there's like an incident where I was like at a restaurant and I was saying like a reason why questioning why the server couldn't accommodate us, and I was just really just curious on why she couldn't. And then somebody at the table said, oh, that's just TI at work. So I wasn't being annoying. I felt understood. So
it's
actually
like
living the functions and living it.
And it's almost like I can imagine like you're all sitting around, like Alon said, sharing this common language with everyone else. And you finally get in the same room and you're like, oh my gosh, we can like get so much, we can get through so much because we're speaking the same language. Been listening to the podcast for 10 years and now coming together. Before I go to Tori, Rhonda, I wanted to ask you something too, because I know a lot of people out there love to learn information. Tell me a little bit of how the live event actually got you into your extroverted functions and helped you, do life a little more than just process it.
Yeah, I am a bit older now, but I still find I'm still tend to just want to consume information and a little bit hesitant on, like, I never feel ready or I know enough. So actually going there and doing it and feeling supported, you can learn a lot more by doing so by being in action. And then I can now when I study, I have more to go by to really fine tune the information.
That's fantastic. Oh my gosh. So amazing. Tori, your best fit type is ESTJ. You've had a little bit of a journey with your type too. I'd like to hear a little bit really quick how, what made you decide to go profiler training? And then what were the discoveries of best fit type and the learning you had along the way?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've been struggling with my type for many years, kind of typing all over the place. I actually was professionally typed as an ENTJ. But there was just something that didn't quite fit with me. And part of the reason why I went to profiler training was one, to hopefully help me with my type, but also to get a better understanding of the similarities and differences we all have amongst the group, and to understand how to cooperate with all these different things, all these different people. And like what Rhonda was saying is that when you're there, you really do just be in the moment, and you start to talk to all these people who are able to talk the same language, and you find a community of people that you can talk to about these things. So it was an incredible experience. And like Alon was saying, as well as even with doing the exercises, I think that's what really hit the nail on the head. If you're trying to find your type, you definitely end up finding your type when you experience these. And it was a lot of fun, but my biggest takeaway is the community that I've built and the people that I've met while I was there.
And Tori, could you speak a little bit to the reason we're there at Profiler Training is to do the actual interview, to actually have a live profiling session with someone. Some of the VIPs, the profiler volunteers have actually shown up tonight. kind of give us a little bit, especially like if I'm nervous going into this interview, am I going to perform well? Am I going to impress Joel and Antonia, or am I going to look like a doofus? Like, kind of help me understand like what it's like to be a profiler.
Absolutely. I was incredibly nervous to do the profiling session, even though I think most of us have actually tried to do a couple before we got into the event. But there's really nothing that stops that nervousness that happens right before you do it. But I was amazed to find that during the profiling session, it was a complete breeze. Like it was almost as if everything that I've learned so far was ingrained so deep inside of me that I didn't even have to think about it. It just came out so naturally.
Well, and if I could say too, I was able to watch everyone do the profiling session. You looked particularly professional, I might add. It was amazing watching you work. I was like, whoo, Tori's getting to work. This is exciting. So yeah, thank you so much. Kristen, kind of ending with you and your story. I'd love to hear how you came into type. I love hearing your story as well. And if you could share a little bit about like the surprises of profiler training or some insights that you might have had along the way that really have changed your life or at least affected your life.
Yeah. Well, I found Personality Hacker through my daughter, who did the advanced profiler training, and she convinced me that I should do this as well. She said it was a profound experience for her. And for me, I am somebody who loves to learn. I can read a subject to death, but I don't take action on it. So going to the live event was, it was a profound event. You immediately connect with everybody around you. And like we've talked about, we use the language so we understand each other in a way that you just don't anywhere else. I think of the embodiment exercises. That was that step for me to actually take action. And
yeah,
I can't even find the words to explain what it was for me. But I knew after I finished the event that I'd been changed, and it didn't seem possible because I'm thinking I just went there to learn something new. But I went out for breakfast with my son before I went back home, and he's an ENFP. I had the best conversation with him that I have ever had. His face was glowing. I could tell that he felt like he was heard. I felt like I was heard. So we were speaking the same language somehow. I mean, I always thought I was a good listener, but I'm listening to people differently now. And it gave me a skill that I wasn't anticipating that at all. I just went there to learn something new.
And I agree, Kristen. I think a lot of the teaching is not just how to determine someone's best fit type, but it is a psyche to psyche experience. And it's a wonderful thing to watch everyone there, even in the off time, at the breakfast bar, in the hotel, outside, in the lobby, or just hanging out afterwards. People are actively listening, engaging, asking more curious questions rather than just, brushing past a word someone says. We're really having it's really Joel and Antonia are teaching the art of conversation, in my opinion, how we can share energy and data at the same time in a way that is just absolute concert harmony. And I think that's kind of what you're speaking to a little bit.
Absolutely.
And it actually lands home with you because you're able to talk with your son in a more meaningful way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Well, we are wrapping this up, but I want to leave it open. Are there any last minute comments, something that like you just want to conclude with about anyone who's kind of on the fence about joining profiler training?
Yeah, I'd love to share something.
Please.
Like if you're ever interested in talking about type or having just really deep conversations and you have like a lack of that, like this is the experience to go to. Like I think they're like the most anxious INFPs or the most introverted, like not really liking people too much INTJs were the ones who were speaking until like 1 a.m.
Yes.
in the morning with everyone, where like everyone was having deep conversations. Everyone was really feeling seen. And I also really just want to thank, Jonathan and Antonia and Joel for just creating this atmosphere where everyone really wants to open up. Everyone's super interested. You guys really set the stage for that with your energy. So yeah, like it's a really amazing experience. I think best decision I made in the last 10 years or something, for sure. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Alon. Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Tori and Kristen, for your time, your attention with us, and joining us this evening.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate all of you guys. Feel free to stay around if you have to go. We understand. Thank you again for being here. And again, energies of like attract like. And so I invited everyone here to come on and Jonathan to share, because if you're vibing with some of the things that the folks here have talked about, you probably would enjoy the program as well. And I love what Kristen said about conversation with her son, because if you think about the roots of the system we use, the Myers-Briggs system, it started in conversation. It started with Carl Jung having conversations with his clients in a clinical analyst setting, right? He's an analyst. He's helping people in a therapeutic way to understand more about themselves. He writes this book in 1921 called Psychological Types. Changes the world because now we have the Myers-Briggs system as a result of that. But in a way, profiler training brings it back down to its original source, which is the conversation between two people. That's where it all got birthed, from Carl Jung at the very beginning. So we're going back a little bit to the roots here of understanding how to relate to another human in a real way. So let's load up now and talk a little bit about those ways to deep read somebody. Because in a conversation, now the person doesn't necessarily have to know that you're deep reading them. We do it in a clinical quote unquote, a setting that's formal with a client on the other side, and they're aware of what's happening. But the skills and the techniques that we learn in profile training can be applied in any conversation, any communication with another human in your life.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why we want to make this distinction, and we'll talk about what it means to actually profile somebody. What are the techniques you need? Like, we're basically going to show you how the soup is made. Now, there's a difference between what we call information and knowledge. So information, we're going to give you the information of profile training, the 4 basic pillars that it's built on, and some of the mistakes that people make when they're trying to speed through some of these things. But there's also knowledge and wisdom, and knowledge comes from applying it. And that's what profiler training is set up, is to make it so that you don't just understand the methodology, don't just have the information of it, but you have the knowledge of it, the application of it, and then eventually the wisdom of it. And the wisdom of it is those moments that change your life, right? When you recognize when to use this tool in your day-to-day life. So what we were just hearing about with the 4 panelists, the 4 people who had just recently been to profiler training, is the live event. This live event, you'll see the faces of the people who are just that were just talking in this picture, and it really is an extraordinary community. It really is an extraordinary group of people who come together, who don't just love type, but they want to they want to apply it in their lives in a real way. They want to have it change their life. Not just something that's intellectually curious, or a curiosity, but rather something that can move the needle, right? Help them discover the most self they can be, but then also help other people discover the same thing. And that's why profiling is so powerful. Now, there is a little bit of it in there that is that doesn't hurt the ego, right? You gain access to information that helps you get the edge on somebody, right? And I don't mean that in a nefarious way where you get the drop on them, but it allows you to, when you're engaged with somebody else, take cues from them that allow you to meet them halfway. So you're speaking their language so that you can make all of your interactions just that much better. But you also start to understand how people operate. You understand how their cognition is wired. And so it's not just a matter of being able to talk to them and have this extraordinary skill of conversation, which is becoming more and more of a lost art. It's also a way to understand what it takes for individuals to become the best version of themselves, to be able to receive your advice, right? One of the big challenges we have right now is it kind of feels like everybody's trying to give everybody else advice and coach. And there are ways to package and deliver information where a person can receive it and thank you for it, and other ways where they just sort of call it knock the taco out of your hand, right? Like you're trying to give them something nice and they don't see the value of it. And one of the beautiful things about coming to the live event and being around a bunch of people who are all like-minded, who are all into type and want to use it to be a force for good in the world, is that you learn both the system and the information behind it, but also a bunch of people's stories and how they grew and changed to become the best version of them. So this what we're going to talk about before we talk about profile training. We just want to make sure that we nail in just how extraordinary these live events are. And then before we talk about what it takes to join profile training, we're also going to give you some information. Like I said, we're going to show you how the soup is made. So regardless of whether or not you ever join it, you at least have the pillars of it, right? Like you understand what it takes to perform a methodology that allows you to really deep read an individual.